This is the scouting report for the Mets' right-handed pitching prospect, Nolan McLain, according to Fangraphs. McLain enters 2026 as the game's top pitching prospect, the latest milestone in his meteoric rise from a talented two-way player at Oklahoma State to the front of the Mets' rotation. Coming off a 2024 season which he posted respectable but mediocre numbers in Double-A, 2025 McLain worked his way into the big leagues by August and dominated from there. In 48 innings across 8 starts, he posted a 2.06 ERA with 57 strikeouts while surrendering only 4 home runs. Remember, this is a third-round pick, a guy who hit more than he pitched in college. The stuff was good, and he was a real prospect heading into last year's breakout campaign, but the idea that he was a prospective number 1 starter was at least one bridge too far. Last year, McLain learned how to harness his precocious raw spin into a couple of wipeout breaking balls, key in his transformation from interesting arm to frontline starter. He's now got just about all you look for in a number 1 starter. He has arm strength, arsenal depth, multiple out pitches, elite movement, and good control. And he even comes relatively stretched out after firing 90 or more pitches in each of his big league starts. Everybody has warts. You could ask for better fastball shape or a little more natural deception here, but the overwhelmingly quality of everything else does more than enough to shore up these comparatively minor deficiencies. More impressive than the components is how they work together. His arsenal bends every direction. He has to command the tunnel and sequence those pitches to their full effect. Righties in particular have a hard time with his bread and butter sweeper sinker mix. His fastball has plus velocity and late life, while the sweeper is firm and razor sharp. Now, if you want to know more about what's going on with the Mets prospects, you need to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you later. This is the Mets' second best prospect according to Fangraphs. This is outfielder Carson Bench. Bench was a two-way player at Oklahoma State, where in addition to his first-round pedigree in the outfield, he also set 92 to 95 miles per hour with a plus flashing changeup. The Mets selected him 19th overall in the 2024 draft and assigned him for just shy of $4 million. He hit .327 through July before a late-season swoon with Syracuse, though it was a feat just to race there. The excellent statistical performance extends to Bench's underlying data. In 2025, he posted a 48% hard hit rate. The big league average is 42%, 80% contact rate, and 106 mile per hour EV90. Big league average is 104. And even Bench's measured bat speed during his rough go at AAA was 2 standard deviations better than the big league mean. Bench also checks a lot of visual scouting boxes. He can manipulate the barrel all over the hitting zone, and he's an explosive rotator whose swing has enormous finish behind him at times. We have some nits to pick with the length of Bench's otherwise gorgeous swing, which perhaps concerningly looks like a left-handed version of Christian Campbell's cut. This may make Bench more vulnerable to elevated fastballs than he has been to this point, but the writers still like the bat speed and barrel control parts of the profile enough to think he'll produce above-average offense. It's on defense that Bench's profile has taken the biggest step forward. He played right field at Oklahoma State, but has taken to center field in pro ball and now projects an above-average glove there. He runs well, takes good routes into the gaps, and has comfort at the catch point. Considering he was recently a two-way player and has only focused on playing center field for about a year, he might even have another half grade more in the tank than they've projected here. The same is true of Bench's overall strength, as he's quite wiry for a 23-year-old and still has room for mass. Though his offense is not without potential pitfalls, so long as Bench is hitting for power on contact and playing a good center field, he should be an above-average regular for the next half-decade or so. And this is the scout report for the Mets' second-best prospect, Carson Bench. And, of course, please subscribe to the Prospect Hut. Thank you for watching. This is the scouting report for the Mets' third-best prospect for 2026. According to Fangraphs, this is starting pitcher, right-hander Jonah Tong. Tong ripped through the upper level of the minors with an uncommon level of dominance. After striking 160 batters and allowing just 3 home runs across 113 innings in 2024, he then bettered both of those numbers and figures across the same number of AA and AAA frames last year. A 1.43 ERA across 22 starts with more than 14 strikeouts per nine looks like something a good high school prospect might do. To dominate seasoned professionals in such a manner is ridiculous. He led the minors in strikeouts in 2025, even though he made his big league debut and pitched 37 fewer innings than the guy who finished second. Both Tong's stuff and delivery are notable parts of his profile. Let's touch on the stuff first. He throws very hard, up to 99 miles per hour. And he sat 94 to 97 last year. Even if he winds up down the velocity back a tick over the course of an arduous big league season, plus carry and extension should let this pitch play like a plus offering. The jury's out everywhere else, though. His change flashes above average, but both his slider and curve look fringy. He mostly uses the latter, and while it has a nice 12-6 sharp to it, it's not particularly sharp and has a bit of a hump. It doesn't project as a big bat misser. That's probably part of why early in the spring of 2026, Tong added a new cutter in the 90 to 93 mile per hour range. Tong is easily a plus athlete, and his looseness allows him to do things in his delivery that most humans can't. The length of his stride, the whippiness in his arm, and his ability to use every ounce of his body all stand out immediately. Still, even with his body control, it's a tricky delivery to sequence. He starts by calling into a rock and fire and then scapulates into a long stride down the mount and releases a big spinal tilt. The effort involved produces a significant heel grind and forces him to spin off the mound and finish with his back nearly facing home plate. There's a lot of head movement throughout, and his stroke is pretty deep too. So while the arm action is clean, it's also another tricky element to line up with everything else. There's the not insignificant matter of durability to consider. This is a concern for every pitcher, and to be fair to Tong, he hasn't had a significant injury, but he's also a slight guy of a very high effort delivery. It's fair to worry about how he'll hold up. Ultimately, Fangraphs thinks the fastball and change are good enough for Tong to belong in the top 100. There are fallbacks too, because if the command of fringy spin push him to the bullpen, it could be very good enough yet to justify this grade as a high leverage reliever. Now, if you want to know more about the Mets and their prospects, you need to hit the subscribe button for the Prospect Hut. This is the scouting report for the Mets' fourth best prospect, according to Fangraphs, right-handed pitcher and starter, Zach Weninger. Weninger entered the 2025 season with a back-end starter projection on the strength of his controller, plus split and an average fastball. He picked up a couple of ticks of velocity at Double-A Binghamton, which prompted a reassessment and ultimately the higher valuation here. Weninger works with both a sinker and a four-seamer. He can find both lanes with each of them and mixes and matches smartly depending on what he's trying to do. The Heat sets up his split, which has big fade and sink. It missed a lot of bats last year, though sometimes it breaks a tick too early to entice hitters. The development of his breaking balls will be key, and there are layers to unpack here. Weninger's curve and slider overlap substantially to the point where we're not always sure which is which, and the slider in particular can look like a tighter, harder version of his curve. That flavor of slider may be the best version of all his breaking balls, as the mid-80s 11.5 bender is the one that looks nastiest visually. We don't mind the inconsistent shapes. It could actually be advantageous for him, but the inconsistent quality is a bigger issue, as he'll show you anything from a 40 to occasional 60. Regardless of what they look like, we want to see fewer flat, soft, and backup breakers, because those are going to get him in trouble. During the 2026 Grapefruit League action, Weninger's breaking balls have been a little bit harder, more often in the 83 to 87 mile per hour range. It's hard enough that automatic pitch tagging wants to call many of them cutters, but the downhill angle of his stuff effectively causes them to play like sliders and curveballs, so we're sticking to labeling them as such. Weninger is a body control of a twitch type of athlete. He repeats his relatively slow delivery and stroke well, and again, limited free passes at above average rate. 2.79 walks per 9 innings in 2025. He isn't especially deceptive, though he does get good extension. Sometimes you can live with fair deception if it comes with above average control and out pitch. One thing going for him, length. Perhaps in part because he hasn't had the kind of high octane stuff that makes coaches and dev folks fret about potential injuries for most of his career. Weninger is actually pretty stretched out. His 135 and 2/3 innings last year were second in the Eastern League and fourth in all of AA. He projects as number 4, who's just about ready for Showtime. Now, if you want to know what's going on with the Mets prospects and the scouting reports, smash that subscribe button for the Prospect Hut. The scouting report for the Mets' 5th best prospect, according to Fangraphs, and this is third baseman Jacob Reimer. Reimer was a priority 4th rounder out of high school in the eastern edge of the greater Los Angeles metro area and signed for $775,000 rather than head to Washington for college. After missing a huge chunk of the 2024 season due to a hamstring injury, he had an outstanding 2025 and hit .282 with on base of .379 and .491 slugging percentage across 2 levels, including 2.5 months at AA Binghamton to close the year. This is a bat-first prospect with a well-rounded hit power blend that is average or better in every regard except for Reimer's performance against sliders. He has great rhythm, balance, and time in the batter's box, and his hands are capable of doing doubles damage to all fields, with home run power coming to his pull side. Because he's often geared to pull, he swings inside of a fair number of sliders, including the occasional whiff inside the strike zone. We have some internal disagreement about how safe and stable Reimer's hit tool is because of his slider bugaboo and the stiff, tight nature of his lower body, which can make it tough for him to dip and scoop lower pitches. But overall, Reimer makes hitting look easy and should have the hit-power combination to profile at third base in an everyday capacity. Reimer isn't a great third baseman defender. His range leaves some to be desired. His hands are just okay, but his body control and arm strength allow him to make some tough off-platform throws, including ones from deep in the corner. He can play third base, but has also seen some reps at first base, and will likely see some time at both spots when he's a big leaguer. Reimer shares some similarities with Isaac Paredes. He's not quite as excellent at contact hitter, and Jordan Westburg, and is on track to debut late in 2027.